I've been on the bench for over 35 years, and I've seen it all. Liars, manipulators, people who think their money or their tears can buy them out of trouble. But this one got my blood boiling like few others. There I was, in my courtroom, watching this wealthy woman, Jennifer Arthur, standing there, pointing her perfectly manicured finger right at a dedicated black police officer, and the words coming out of her mouth, so calculated, so deliberately inflammatory, that even my seasoned audience members gasped in disbelief. Jennifer Arthur, dressed in a designer St. John's suit that costs more than most folks' monthly rent, had just accused Officer Joseph Williams of pulling her over solely because of racism, claiming he targeted her for driving while white in a minority neighborhood, her voice trembling with that practiced emotion as she described being terrorized by this officer. And let me tell you, she was clearly expecting sympathy, validation, and a quick victory to make that speeding ticket disappear forever. But what Jennifer didn't know, I'd spent the night before reviewing the dashcam footage, the police records, and this woman's extensive traffic history that painted a very different picture. And when I revealed what really happened during that traffic stop, and what Jennifer had been hiding about her past run-ins with law enforcement, the truth hit like a ton of bricks. It exposed not just one lie, but a systematic pattern of weaponizing discrimination accusations to dodge accountability for her dangerous behavior. Before I tell you how I dismantled this woman's calculated deception with evidence so damning it left the entire courtroom in stunned silence, let this be a lesson to all of you watching. Truth matters, accountability matters, and false accusations, they hurt the real victims of discrimination, the ones who truly suffer and deserve to be heard. If you believe that crying racism to avoid consequences is not just wrong, but dangerous to everyone who faces real discrimination, then pay close attention, because by the end, you'll see why this became one of the most important lessons in courtroom television history. It was a Thursday afternoon, 2:30 p.m., my television courtroom packed with viewers who could feel something explosive building in the air. The case description alone had stirred controversy before we even started filming. A discrimination complaint against a police officer, racial profiling allegations, and a plaintiff who showed up with her own attorney for what should have been a simple traffic ticket dispute. The tension, thick as fog. Jennifer Arthur sat in the plaintiff's chair, looking every bit the successful executive she claimed to be. Blonde hair, perfectly styled, Cartier watch catching the studio lights, Louis Vuitton handbag at her feet like a badge of status. But it wasn't the expensive accessories that filled the room with unease. No, it was her demeanor, the way she'd already positioned herself as the victim before anyone said a word, the way she glanced at the audience like she expected their automatic support, the way she sized up Officer Joseph Williams with barely concealed contempt. Officer Joseph Williams sat at the defendant's table, in his dress uniform, and the contrast couldn't have been starker. A 15-year veteran, 42 years old, multiple commendations shining on his chest, postureprofessional.com, dignified. Even though he was being publicly accused of racism on national television, his sergeant sat in the gallery showing departmental support, and there was something in Officer Williams' eyes that us veteran court watchers recognized right away. The weary look of a good officer who's faced false accusations before, and knows lies can destroy careers even when the truth finally comes out. He'd brought his own evidence folder, meticulously organized, because he's the kind of officer who documents everything precisely for moments exactly like this. I entered the courtroom, and even before I sat down, my eyes narrowed. In 35 years, I've developed an almost supernatural ability to spot liars, manipulators, people who think their performance will beat the facts. Something about Jennifer Arthur set off every alarm bell I have, that perfectly practiced expression of wounded innocence, the designer armor like it was a costume, the way she was already dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue before the case even started. Let me tell you, I've seen real victims of discrimination. Real victims don't perform. They tell the truth with raw emotion that can't be faked. This woman, she was performing, and I knew it right then and there. Jennifer Arthur was suing Officer Joseph Williams for $5,000, claiming harassment, racial profiling, emotional distress, alleging he pulled her over in a predominantly black neighborhood solely because she's white, that he was aggressive and threatening, issued a bogus speeding ticket to meet some quota, and the whole traumatic experience forced her into therapy. Her attorney had prepared an opening statement about systemic bias, the chilling effect of racial profiling on innocent citizens, The gallery was divided. Some looked at Jennifer's tears and expensive clothes and assumed she must be telling the truth. Others, including a black woman in the third row with arms crossed, skeptically sensed something was very wrong with this story. Officer Williams' sergeant whispered to another officer, shaking his head slowly, because he'd read the incident report and knew what was really on that dashcam. I sat forward, hands clasped, expression unreadable. I gestured for Jennifer to begin, and what happened next set the stage for one of the most devastating truth revelations in courtroom history. Jennifer took a deep breath, composing herself with theatrical precision, and started her testimony with emotion designed to manipulate sympathy from everyone watching. Your Honor, I've never been so terrified in my entire life. I was visiting a friend in the Oakmont neighborhood, just driving carefully through an area I wasn't familiar with, when suddenly, police lights behind me. My heart started racing because I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. I pulled over immediately, and this officer, she gestured toward Joseph Williams without looking at him, approached my car with his hand near his weapon, like I was some dangerous criminal. I'm a real estate executive, Your Honor. I've never even gotten a parking ticket in my life. I follow every traffic law religiously because I understand how important safety is. But the moment Officer Williams saw my face, saw that I was white, saw my Mercedes, he decided I must be doing something wrong. Her voice broke perfectly on cue. This is racial profiling, Your Honor. Plain and simple. He pulled me over because I was driving while white in a black neighborhood, and he wanted to prove some kind of point. She kept building her narrative with details that sounded specific enough to seem credible. I asked him very politely why he stopped me, and he immediately became hostile and aggressive. He demanded my license in this threatening tone, refused to explain the reason, and when I asked for his badge number because I felt unsafe, he became even more hostile. He wrote me a ticket claiming I was going 52 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour zone, which is absolutely ridiculous. I was driving maybe 30 at the most, barely over the limit, but he wanted to punish me for questioning his authority. So he made up this outrageous speed to justify his discriminatory stop. The entire encounter lasted 45 minutes, Your Honor. 45 minutes of him standing by my car, intimidating me, making comments about how people like me don't belong in that neighborhood, treating me like a criminal when all I was doing was visiting a friend. Jennifer dabbed at her eyes again, voice trembling with rehearsed emotion. I drove home shaking and crying. I couldn't eat dinner that night. My children asked why Mommy was so upset, and I had to explain that sometimes people judge you for the wrong reasons. I've had to take time off work to deal with the emotional trauma. I filed formal complaints with the department, contacted the ACE, and I'm here today because Officer Williams needs to be held accountable for his discriminatory behavior and abuse of authority. Her attorney stood, adding his practiced outrage, Your Honor. This is part of a disturbing pattern where officers feel empowered to target citizens based on race and socioeconomic appearance. My client was profiled because she's a successful white woman driving a nice car in a predominantly minority neighborhood. Officer Williams saw an easy target, someone he assumed wouldn't fight back, and he abused his authority. We're asking for $5,000 in damages, but more importantly, accountability and justice. My expression didn't change once during this whole performance. I asked my first question, gently, deceptively so. Miss Arthur, you said you've never had a parking ticket, never had any traffic violations. You're absolutely certain about that statement? Jennifer nodded emphatically, sensing a chance to bolster her credibility. 100% certain, Your Honor. I'm an excellent driver who follows all traffic laws. That's exactly how I know this ticket was completely unjustified. Officer Williams targeted me because of my race, my car, my appearance in that neighborhood. He saw an easy target and he took it. I've never been stopped by police before this incident because I've never given anyone a reason to stop me. I leaned back slightly, that dangerous little smile at the corners of my mouth. Not a single traffic citation ever in your entire driving history. Jennifer's confidence grew, misreading my calm as agreement. That's correct, Your Honor. My driving record is spotless, which is why this false ticket is so outrageous. It's clearly retaliation for me questioning Officer Williams's discriminatory behavior. I opened a folder slowly, deliberately. That's very interesting. Miss Arthur, we'll come back to that statement. But first, I'd like to hear from Officer Williams. Officer, please tell us your version of what happened that afternoon. Officer Joseph Williams stood with military precision, voice clear and steady. Your Honor, on the afternoon in question, I was conducting routine traffic patrol on Oakmont Avenue, a residential street with a posted speed limit of YMPH. At approximately YPM, I observed a silver Mercedes sedan traveling at a high rate of speed through the residential zone. I activated my radar gun, which clocked the vehicle at 68 miles per hour, not 52 as stated on the citation. Let me explain that discrepancy, Your Honor. When I stopped Miss Arthur and confirmed the speed violation, I made a decision to reduce the speed on the citation from 68 to 52 miles per hour. The reason is simple. 68 in a 25 zone constitutes reckless driving under state law, which carries a mandatory court appearance, immediate license suspension, and possible arrest. I reduced the citation speed as a professional courtesy to allow Miss Arthur to keep her license and avoid criminal charges. I was trying to help her, even though she was driving more than 40 miles over the speed limit. He paused, letting it sink in. Your Honor, Oakmont Avenue runs directly across from Riverside Elementary School. At 3:47 p.m., school was dismissing. There were crossing guards, teachers, parents with strollers, children walking home. Miss Arthur was driving 68 miles per hour past an elementary school during dismissal time. If a child had run into the street at that speed, there would have been no time to stop, no time to react. We would be having a very different conversation, in a very different courtroom. Officer Williams continued with the calm professionalism that defines his career. Your Honor, I have the complete dashcam footage from my patrol car. It captures the entire stop from beginning to end, with audio and times. The video is unedited, logged as evidence with my department. Everything Miss Arthur claimed happened is either documented or disproven by this footage. I nodded approvingly. We'll watch that footage momentarily. But first, Miss Arthur claimed you approached her vehicle with your hand on your weapon, that you were aggressive and threatening. Is that accurate? Officer Williams shook his head. No, Your Honor. Standard procedure for traffic stops requires hands visible at all times for officer safety and civilian comfort. My dash cam will show my hands were never near my service weapon. I approached with my citation book and pen, exactly as I've done thousands of times during my 15 years on the force. I continued my methodical questioning about the length of the stop. Miss Arthur claims 45 minutes of harassment and intimidation. Officer Williams checked his incident report. The stop lasted 7 minutes and 34 seconds from lights activation to completion, not 45 minutes. I approached the vehicle, identified myself, explained that I had clocked her at 68 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour school zone. Miss Arthur immediately became combative, stating that I was lying, that she was barely over the speed limit, and that I had only pulled her over because, and I'm reading from my notes here, because I was a racist who resents successful white people in black neighborhoods. My eyebrows raised slightly. Those were her exact words. Yes, Your Honor. Miss Arthur refused to provide her license initially, demanded to speak to my supervisor, threatened to have me fired, and stated that her attorney would destroy my career. She recorded parts of the interaction on her phone while shouting that she was being racially profiled. She told me I was an embarrassment to my badge, and that people like me shouldn't be allowed to police decent citizens. The courtroom was absolutely silent now, every eye on Officer Williams as he continued. Your Honor, I remained professional throughout the entire encounter. I explained the violation clearly. I reduced the speed on the citation specifically to help her avoid reckless driving charges. I provided my badge number when requested, and I wished her a safe day when the stop concluded. Miss Arthur responded by saying she would make sure I was fired, and that she would expose me as a racist on social media. Officer Williams pulled out printed screenshots. She followed through on that threat, Your Honor. She posted about our encounter on 3 different social media platforms, creating a narrative of racial profiling that went viral in our local community. My department received 87 complaints within 24 hours based solely on her false accusations. I was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. While this was reviewed, even though the investigation cleared me completely, the accusations are still online, still damaging my reputation, still affecting how some community members view me. Your Honor, I've spent 15 years serving this community. I've received 3 medals for valor, 2 community service awards, and I volunteer coaching youth basketball in the same neighborhood where I supposedly don't want white people driving. This accusation has hurt me professionally and personally. My expression had shifted from neutral to barely contained fury. Officer Williams, in your 15 years on the force, have you ever been accused of racial bias before this incident? Never, Your Honor. I have a spotless record. My partners include officers of every race. My community relationships are documented throughout my personnel file. I understand that real racism exists. Real profiling happens. Real victims of discrimination deserve justice and protection. But false accusations like Miss Arthur's make it harder for real victims to be believed. She weaponized a serious accusation to avoid consequences for endangering children. I nodded slowly. You're willing to show us this dashcam footage that you claim proves Miss Arthur lied about everything? Absolutely, Your Honor. The truth is on that video. I had the courtroom monitors prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to watch the complete, unedited dashcam footage from Officer Williams' patrol car. Miss Arthur, I want you to pay very close attention, because your testimony under oath is about to be compared directly against video evidence with audio and times. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably, whispering urgently with her attorney, who suddenly looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. The lights dimmed slightly as the video began playing on multiple screens. The timestamp appeared clearly, showing the exact date and time. The dashcam showed Officer Williams' patrol car driving down Oakmont Avenue at a moderate speed. In the distance, Riverside Elementary School, clearly visible with bright yellow crossing guards and dismissal chaos. Suddenly, a silver Mercedes sped past the patrol car so fast it was almost a blur. The radar gun display appeared in the corner, numbers that made several audience members gasp audibly. 68 miles per hour. The number glowed on screen. Undeniable. Documented. Officer Williams' voice came through calm and professional. That vehicle is traveling dangerously fast in a school zone. Initiating traffic stop. No anger. No prejudice. Just matter-of-fact professionalism of an officer doing his job. The patrol car followed the Mercedes, lights and sirens activated, and what happened next contradicted another of Jennifer's claims. The Mercedes didn't pull over immediately, it actually accelerated slightly, continuing for nearly 2 full blocks before finally stopping. Officer Williams reported his location and vehicle description to dispatch. Following standard procedure, he exited his patrol car, and the camera angle clearly showed both his hands visible, holding his citation book and a pen. No weapon drawn, no aggressive posture, no threatening stance, just a professional officer approaching a traffic stop exactly as trained. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Officer Williams with the City Police Department. I stopped you because you were traveling 68 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour school zone. May I see your license and registration, please? Tone respectful, clear, completely non-threatening. Jennifer Arthur's voice came through the audio, and the contrast to Officer Williams' professionalism was shocking. Are you kidding me? I was not speeding. Your radar is wrong. I want your badge number right now. No fear in her voice, no trauma, just immediate hostility and entitlement. Officer Williams' voice remained patient. Ma'am, I'll provide my badge number, but first I need your license and registration. This is a legal traffic stop for a serious speed violation in a school zone. Jennifer's response cut through the courtroom like a knife. I know exactly why you pulled me over. You saw a nice car and a white woman and decided to harass me. This is racial profiling, and I'm recording this entire thing on my phone. Do you understand that? I'm documenting your racist behavior. Officer Williams, still calm, still professional despite the accusation. Ma'am, I pulled you over because you were driving 68 miles per hour past an elementary school during student dismissal. This has nothing to do with your race or your vehicle. This is about public safety and the lives of children. The video showed Jennifer refusing to hand over her documents for over 2 full minutes, visible through her car window, animated and hostile, pointing her finger at Officer Williams while he stood patiently waiting. She demanded a supervisor, threatened to call her attorney, repeatedly accused him of racism while he maintained composure. Finally, Jennifer threw her license through the window at him. The plastic card hit Officer Williams in the chest and fell to the ground. There. Are you happy now? Harassing innocent people must make you feel so powerful. You people are all the same. Officer Williams bent down, picked up the license with dignity intact, and returned to his patrol car to run her information. The timestamp showed he was back at her window within 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Not 45 minutes, not even close. Miss Arthur, I'm issuing you a citation for driving 52 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour zone. I've reduced the speed from the actual 68 I clocked you at, because that would constitute reckless driving with a mandatory court appearance and possible license suspension. I'm giving you a break here so you can keep your license and handle this with a fine. Jennifer's voice rose with indignation. A break? You're giving me a ticket for something I didn't do because you're racist. I'm going to have your job for this. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of officer you are. You think you can intimidate me, but you can't. My attorney will destroy you. Officer Williams handed her the citation through the window. Ma'am, you have the right to contest this citation in court. My badge number is printed on the ticket. Please drive safely, especially near schools where children are present. Have a good day. Jennifer snatched the ticket. Don't tell me to have a good day. Don't talk to me about children. You people have no idea what real harassment feels like. This is discrimination, and everyone is going to know about it. The video showed Officer Williams walking back to his patrol car. Timestamp confirming the entire interaction lasted exactly 7 minutes and 34 seconds. The audio picked up him sighing deeply once back in his vehicle. Another false accusation incoming. At least, the dashcam tells the truth. The video ended. The courtroom sat in absolute stunned silence. Every single claim Jennifer made had been systematically destroyed by video evidence. She wasn't polite. She was hostile from the first moment. Officer Williams wasn't aggressive. He showed remarkable patience while being accused and having her license thrown at him. The stop wasn't 45 minutes. It was under 8. She wasn't driving 30 miles per hour. She was doing 68 past a school full of children. The evidence was undeniable, completely devastating to her credibility. Jennifer Arthur's face went from confident to pale to ashen. Her attorney looked like he was calculating how fast he could run from this disaster. Audience members shaking their heads, some with anger, others with disgust at what they'd just witnessed. I sat forward, and when I spoke, my voice was deadly quiet. That quiet tone regular viewers know means someone is about to get absolutely destroyed. Miss Arthur, we just watched video evidence that contradicts every single claim you made under oath in this courtroom. Every single one. You weren't driving 30 miles per hour. You were driving 68 miles per hour past an elementary school full of children. Officer Williams didn't approach you aggressively. He was the absolute model of professionalism while you threw your license at him and hurled accusations of racism. The stop didn't last 45 minutes. It lasted less than 8 minutes. Would you like to explain these discrepancies? Or should we just acknowledge that you lied under oath in my courtroom? Jennifer tried desperately to recover. Your Honor, I was emotional. I was traumatized. Maybe I remembered some details incorrectly, but the core issue remains the same. I felt racially profiled. I felt targeted. My feelings are valid. Even if some minor details were wrong, my voice cut through the excuse like a laser. Feelings don't override facts, Miss Arthur. 68 in a 25 zone isn't a minor detail. Throwing a license at an officer isn't a minor detail. And lying under oath definitely isn't a minor detail. But before we address the perjury you just committed in my courtroom, let's talk about another lie you told. You stated under oath that you've never had a traffic citation before. Not one, ever. You said your driving record is spotless. You were very emphatic about that. Do you remember making that statement? Jennifer nodded weakly. Yes, but Your Honor, I can explain. I held up my hand. No explanations yet. Officer Williams, when you ran Miss Arthur's license during this traffic stop, what did you find? Officer Williams stood again, pulling documentation from his folder. Your Honor, when I ran Miss Arthur's license, her record showed 8 prior speeding citations in the past 4 years, not 08. The courtroom erupted in gasps and shocked murmurs. Jennifer's face turned bright red as I opened my own thick folder. That's very interesting, Officer Williams, because I did my own research last night. Miss Arthur, let's go through your driving history together, shall we? May 2021. Speeding 48 in a 30 zone. Citation dismissed after you filed a complaint claiming the officer was rude and unprofessional. August 2021. Speeding 55 in a 35 zone. Citation dismissed after you claimed the officer targeted you because of your expensive car. November 2021. Running a red light. Citation dismissed after you accused the officer of racism. That officer, by the way, was Asia. March 2022. Speeding in a school zone. 45 in a 20 zone. Citation reduced to a parking violation after you claimed gender discrimination against the female officer who stopped you. I continued, voice building in intensity with each entry. June 2022. Reckless driving dismissed after complaints of harassment. September 2022. Speeding dismissed after accusations of profiling. December 2022. Another school zone violation reduced after threats of lawsuits. And finally, April 2023, speeding again, dismissed after you accused that officer of targeting successful women. 8 violations, Miss Arthur. 8 times you were caught breaking traffic laws, and 8 times you made accusations of discrimination, bias, harassment, or profiling to escape consequences. I stood up from my bench, and everyone in the courtroom knew what that meant. When I stand, someone is about to receive the verbal destruction of their lifetime. Miss Arthur, you have a very clear pattern here. Every single time you get caught breaking traffic laws, you weaponize serious accusations against the officers who stopped you. You've accused Hispanic officers of racism. You've accused Asian officers of racism. You've accused female officers of gender bias. You've accused male officers of harassment. The only common denominator in all these incidents is you, and your absolute refusal to accept responsibility for your dangerous driving. Jennifer tried to interrupt. Those incidents were different. I was legitimately profiled in those cases. My voice rose, all 8 times. Every single officer who caught you speeding was discriminating against you. Or is it possible, Miss Arthur, that you're a reckless driver who hides behind serious accusations to avoid consequences for endangering people's lives? Officer Williams, you mentioned that false accusations make it harder for real victims. Explain that to me. Officer Williams stood. Your Honor, when someone cries wolf about racism or discrimination, it diminishes the experiences of people who actually face those injustices every single day. Real victims of profiling have a harder time being believed because of cases exactly like this one. Miss Arthur wasn't profiled because she's white. She was stopped because she endangered children. But she knew that if she made it about race, some people would automatically believe her without asking for evidence. That's not just wrong. It's harmful to everyone, especially real victims who deserve to be heard and believed. I nodded and turned to the social media posts. Officer Williams produced the printouts. Your Honor, Miss Arthur posted about our interaction on 3 platforms. She called me a racist cop, claimed I harassed her for being white, and encouraged her followers to file complaints against me. Within 24 hours, my department received 87 complaints. I was placed on administrative leave while this was investigated. Even though I was completely cleared, those posts are still online. People in my community still see them. My reputation has been damaged by lies, and there's no way to fully repair that harm. I turned back to Jennifer, eyes blazing. So, Miss Arthur didn't just lie to get out of a ticket. She actively worked to destroy your career and reputation. Yes, Your Honor. And based on her history, I'm the 9th officer she's done this to. How many have been disciplined, demoted, transferred, or had their reputations permanently damaged because of her false accusations? We'll never know. I removed my glasses slowly, my signature move before the most brutal verdicts. Miss Arthur, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. In my 35 years on the bench, I have seen liars, I have seen manipulators, I have seen people try every trick imaginable to avoid accountability. But what you have done is particularly you didn't just lie to get out of a ticket. You weaponized serious accusations of racism and discrimination to destroy the career of a good officer who was trying to protect children from your reckless driving. My voice filled the entire courtroom. Officer Williams caught you driving 68 miles per hour past an elementary school during dismissal. Instead of being grateful that no child died because of your recklessness, instead of accepting responsibility for endangering innocent lives, you immediately accused him of racism. Not because you believed it, not because there was any evidence, but because you have learned over 8 previous violations that making these accusations gets you out of consequences. Let me be crystal clear about what happened here. You lied about your speed. You lied about Officer Williams's behavior. You lied about the length of the stop. You lied about your driving record. You lied under oath in my courtroom, and you did all of this while hiding behind accusations that real victims of discrimination desperately need to be taken seriously. You are not a victim, Miss Arthur. You are a perpetrator. You perpetrate dangerous driving, you perpetrate false accusations, and you perpetrate the kind of behavior that makes real victims harder to believe. Your lawsuit is dismissed. Not only dismissed, but I'm awarding Officer Williams $5,000 in damages for defamation. You maliciously attempted to destroy his reputation with false accusations posted publicly on social media. Those posts will be removed immediately, and you will post a public apology on those same platforms admitting you lied. Jennifer started to protest, but I cut her off with a raised hand. I'm not finished, not even close. I am forwarding this case to the district attorney's office with a recommendation for perjury charges. You lied under oath in my courtroom, and that is a crime. I am also forwarding your 8-citation pattern to the DMV with a recommendation that your license be suspended. Any person who has escaped consequences 8 times through false accusations should not be driving on public roads. Furthermore, I'm forwarding this case to your employer because character matters in business, and yours has been fully exposed today. But here's the educational part. You will complete 100 hours of community service at a legal aid clinic that handles actual discrimination cases. You will sit in that office and listen to real victims of real racism tell their stories. You will learn the difference between actual discrimination and entitled people who don't want traffic tickets. I leaned forward, final words, carrying the weight of absolute authority. Miss Arthur, you thought your tears and your expensive clothes and your willingness to lie would get you what you wanted. You thought that crying racism would automatically make you the victim. You were wrong. In this courtroom, the truth matters, evidence matters, and people like Officer Williams, who serve their communities with honor, matter more than your ego and your unwillingness to accept that you broke the law. Case dismissed. Judgment for the defendant in the amount of $5,000. Get out of my courtroom. The gavel fell with thunderous finality. The courtroom erupted in spontaneous applause. Officer Williams Sargent stood and saluted. Jennifer Arthur sat frozen in humiliation as her attorney quickly packed his briefcase. Officer Williams approached the bench. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for seeing the truth. I nodded with respect. Officer Williams, you represent the best of law enforcement. Your professionalism, your restraint, your character. That is what this country needs. This video will be preserved. Your department will receive copies. Anyone who repeats Miss Arthur's lies will be confronted with evidence. 6 months later, Jennifer Arthur completed her community service. Having finally learned what real discrimination looks like, her license was suspended, her job was lost, and her social media posts became cautionary tales about the consequences of false accusations. Officer Joseph Williams received a commendation for his professionalism and continues serving his community with the same integrity he's always shown. And my words, they echoed across millions of shares and comments. The truth doesn't care about your feelings, evidence doesn't discriminate, and false accusations harm everyone, especially real victims who deserve justice. Let this story remind you why truth and accountability matter. Protect both real victims and the falsely accused. That's essential to justice. Remember my wisdom in my courtroom. Consequences are guaranteed for those who weaponize serious accusations to escape accountability. Justice served, truth vindicated, lies exposed.